right, thank you, Doc. You covered. All right, we also have just some submissions from those that are following us on Sly Media Productions Facebook page. Mushare Princess Betty Makoni saying MDCA has no part in stay away. Please stop these scammers from changing the narrative. Zimbabwe murdered civilians. Whisker Zapasi EDP. Lo Mush here saying CIO planted to ask questions. Whisker Zapasi, MDC is just full of sour thugs, and there are many others. We can't go through all of them. We'll ask Patience, Nick, and Douglas to respond to some of the questions and submissions, quite a mouthful. And then we'll take the very last round before we close. Patience?
Okay. Minister, beyond being with media monitors, we are also part of the Media Alliance of Zimbabwe. The Media Alliance of Zimbabwe has been engaging with the ministry. We have been invited by the ministry on several occasions to make our submissions. Like you indicated from the news day, last year there was a meeting that was held. We had representatives that went. We made our submissions, position papers. Another meeting, I think 2 meetings were actually held last year by the ministry. This doesn't take away from what the minister has said around the internet as well. And we have made submissions around the laws themselves and what we think, what laws need to be amended. We have talked about the Interception of Communications Act, the one that was used to justify the shutdown. We've talked about the Access to Information Protection of Privacy Act, the Broadcasting Services Act, provisions of the Criminal Law Codification and Reform Act. There are many laws that we have talked about, and we have made submissions to the ministry. And we are still hoping that a lot of these submissions are going to be taken on board, especially looking at the democratic imperative of ensuring that we have a free media in this country. I think that's my response to that question. Sorry.
All right. That has just come online when the president. Okay. The question is that because it's directed at you, it says that when the president cancelled his Davos trip, he said heads will roll. Would like to know which heads have rolled. If not, what measures have been put in place to redress this incident?
Very interesting stuff. Thank you, Patience, for acknowledging the engagement efforts of the ministry in our reforms. And yes, I do confirm that they did attend our forum and they did contribute position papers, and they engaged well. The question that was directed at me, I think, came from Wellington, Zengeza. You asked about the internet shutdown and its effect on business, particularly your business. It did affect business, and it also affected our business, meaning my business, the business of information dissemination. What ended up happening is there was only one side of the story being told. Those who managed to post their videos across to the diaspora and elsewhere, they started running a certain narrative. The ministry could not put its view across. Hence, we went on the defensive. All the situations that were arising, people trying to dig up Mfure Bridge, people even trying to go to mines to steal dynamite, all those things, we could not put it across. And to put it across now, as I'm doing, it's all sounding defensive. So it affected my business. But let's talk about the commercial business, as you alluded to. Here is a government of the people, faced with a situation. Letting your business, if it's warehoused in a building, burn down in that building or switching the internet and save that building from burning down, what option would the government have taken? I believe the action it took, which is to save that building and make you incur some loss of business. But in any case, the shutdown meant that there was actually no business because it was enforced. Even in areas which were not affected at that point, like Borodale, the people had shut down because they were worried and scared. Remember, the shutdown was enforced. The coordination that was being proliferated via the internet was actually very bad. Yesterday, I went to Zuba substation. And as we all know, I believe most of us in this room know that Zuba was deliberately targeted because the messages were going around to say, go after Zuba substation. What we were told and saw as the remnants of the event is that there were young children, very organized, so this thing was not spontaneous at all. Organized young children being put at the front, being made to roll burning tires towards the petrol station with an intention of igniting the petrol station. And by some grace of God or whatever divine intervention, that petrol station did not explode. Because if that petrol station had exploded, as adjacent as it is to residential areas, we would have been talking of a massive, massive catastrophe. But look at the callousness of this thing. It's children right at the front. These organizers are right at the back. And those children would have been totally obliterated. The government is seeing this message, these types of messages. And at the same time, this same government is actually getting these reports that Zua is being targeted and people are going out after these petrol stations because there's this message which is going around to say go after Zua petrol stations. What would a sensible government do? A sensible government would stop the proliferation of these messages to save the people. That's what a sensible government did. Come to me. I think most of you have seen it, and some of you after, I'll show you. Life threats against myself. Bullets being laid on the table, and my bullets are there. People being asked to identify where my children go to school. Thankfully, none of my children is going to school. They are all adults. But they were being asked, identify where does his children go to school? Where does he live? The messages are there on this phone right now, and most of you saw them. A government faced with such vigilantism and mob incitement, what would it do? It didn't. There was no clue how this is going to end. It wasn't only me. There were others. How was this going to end? As a potential victim of these plots, nobody knew who was generating them, because people were obeying orders whose order they had no clue, but they were obeying regardless. What would the government do? Would it risk my children being plugged out of school, if they had any of that school going age, and dying, or just switch off the internet? I think, given the two options of which one is the more sensible route, is the route it took. In any case, as I said, most businesses were already shut down when the internet was switched off. Banks were not operating, which rely on the internet. But yes, there was business lost. And I apologize, and I'm very sorry that you lost some business. But, no, I'm just saying, thank you very that's fine, Wellington. But I'm just saying, you represent a trying Zimbabwean, a Zimbabwean who is working hard, who was affected in an adverse way by the decision to shut down the internet. But I'm saying, given the options, the risk, and the avenues available, Zimbabwe remains open for business today, because probably a decision was made to stop these very toxic messages from going around. Yes, one hopes and hopes that in the very near future, there will be a more precise way of dealing with such proliferations. On the 7th of July 2005, coordinated attacks took place in London. Liverpool Street, I think it was Trafalgar Square, and many other places. Bombs were exploding on trains and so forth, on buses. My niece was somewhere in that area, and I knew she was somewhere in that area. I picked up my phone. I tried to call her to ask, are you okay? I could not phone her. I could not get through. There was no signal. What had just happened? The British authorities had closed down all mobile networks. They shut them down because these attacks were being coordinated via mobile phones, and the bombs were being triggered by mobile phone. They did the only sensible thing at that point: shut down mobile phones. And when I look at these two scenarios, the 7th of July 2005 and the events of we shut down the internet, I think, by the 16th. Of the 16th of January 2019 in Harare Square. When America invaded Iraq, Al Jazeera was beaming a lot of messages. And they felt Al Jazeera was part of this strategy. It was inciting people. It was encouraging people. What did they do? I'll answer my own question. They sent a missile to hit Al Jazeera. Yes, they bombed it. The TK was there. We took off freedom of the media. They attacked the journalists by bombing via a missile. Our only missile was a button. Switch off the internet. That's the only missile we exploded. Advocate Nyabaza, your question about the ICJ, I have no idea. I haven't heard about it. I'm sorry. Everson, you asked about army trucks. I'm sorry you missed a bit of my answer in the first place. I said there are rogue elements. There are army officers that have gone outside the bounds of accountability or the bounds of Operation Normalcy. And the military police issued a statement asking for people to report the such so that they will be dealt with. I also said, even in America, when they operated in Iraq, there were such officers. Even in Britain, when they operated in Afghanistan, there were such officers. And I said there is a process within the army which will deal with those. And in line with that question, I'll answer the question about heads rolling. Yes, heads will roll. When investigations have taken place, when people have been reported, and heads will roll. You are talking about microwave justice. I think that's you're talking about fast-track justice, which some call the microwave justice. That's exactly what you are talking against. That's what you're asking the minister to do against this personnel. We are saying investigations are taking place. Investigations will take place, and when people are convicted, heads will roll. And the government has made that undertaking that heads will roll, and the heads will roll. Thank you.